The Lightning struck the Stars hard in Game 3, and Stamkos made a brief comeback. It's Thursday, and this is the HockeyDebates.com podcast powered by SportsBettingDime.com, and let's go. Welcome, everyone. I'm Bob Duff, as always joined by my able co-host, Kevin Allen, the Hall of Fame hockey writer, and our regular Thursday panel always includes Sascha Paruk from SportsBettingDime.com, the lead odds maker there. And, of course, the HockeyDebates.com podcast is brought to you by SportsBettingDime.com, your leading source for odds, sports news, and game predictions. If you're looking to see who's the favorite to win the Stanley Cup, the Hart Trophy, or who's going to win a specific series, check out all the info at sportsbettingdime.com. We'll be talking about some of their Stanley Cup odds today, and we're also going to leave you a link in the description of this episode so you can check out the odds for yourself. And start right with you, Kevin. It's your favorite game of the playoff series.
You know it.
You love it like one of your own children.
I wouldn't go that far, but yeah.
I think in this case, though, you're dead on, because if the Dallas Stars don't bring something to Game 4, this set's all over.
Yeah, I mean, Game 4 is always the most important game because generally it's the difference between 2-2 and 3-1. And, we all know what that means historically. It's just difficult to dig out of a 3-1 hole. And, if you're the Stars, you certainly understand that. You didn't play well in that last game. You also know that you're facing a Tampa Bay Lightning team that's growing in confidence now. Before we came on the air, you were just mentioning about the Lightning are getting goals from all the different sources that they need to do it. And all of a sudden, the Dallas Stars look a little bit more like the regular season. They're not getting goals out of their forwards like they need as well. So, this is what it's all about. If you want to be champions, you got to be able to win a game like this. And I'm sure that's what Rick Bowness is going to be telling his players going into Game 4.
So, Sasha, we see the odds going into Game 4, and all of a sudden now Tampa Bay minus 410 to win the Stanley Cup, Dallas plus 330. And I know there was a sports book after Game 1 that had Tampa Bay at plus 190 to win the Cup after they lost the series opener. And I would hope people were smart to jump on that. It would seem like Tampa Bay looks like a pretty good bet right now.
Yeah, well, I'll caution bettors. If you want to bet on Tampa Bay, you can get them at minus 410, and you can get them at as short as minus 560. So you have to be really, you got to scrutinize where you're betting, depending on who you want to wager on. As far as Dallas goes, they are as short as plus 330, but as you said, you can get them at north of plus 400.
Which way would you be playing this next game, Sasha? We got Tampa Bay favored at minus 175, but knowing that basically, even though realistically in the mathematical term it isn't life or death for Dallas, you get a sense that it is life or death, because if they go down 3-1, they're not coming back. Oh, I think we might have lost Sasha. What do you think about that, Kevin? Is this life or death for Dallas?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and I think everyone knows that, and I think fans know that, and I think they're going to treat it as such. They're going to treat this like Game 7 because, to them it almost is. And people say that it doesn't matter what the score is, but it does. The psychology of it all, and what happened in that last game. I think had to have the Dallas Stars, kind of wondering, okay, where did our game go? Like where, why aren't we the team that we were, against Vegas? And, that's always the hardest element to, figure out when you're a team. Like, we all, even the analytics folks will, believe that, it's all there in the numbers, but it's really not. There's no explanation for, why teams, suddenly, act as if they've forgotten how they needed to play in order to be successful.
We've both covered an awful lot of playoff series, and you do see that, coaches like to talk about how the playoffs are a battle of wills, and the team that can impose its will on the other team the quickest is going to win the series. And you almost see that. You see teams, as you say, like a team like Dallas that has rolled so effectively through the first 3 rounds. Now all of a sudden, they've kind of got that deer in the headlights look, like, what happened to us? Where did it all go? Like, it's amazing how quickly confidence and swagger can evaporate in a playoff series.
Yeah, and I've talked about that a lot during my career. Just you would think with professional athletes, a group that earns its living through athletic performance, that confidence would not play such a big role in the outcome of games. Like, you would think that all athletes are confident, but it comes and goes with professional athletes. We do see that, and it comes and goes with teams, and that's why every year there's teams that I refer to as momentum teams that suddenly feel good about themselves, gain in confidence, and they start to roll. But it doesn't take much, for that confidence to leave them, because they're professionals, they know, how that team across from them is performing, and they know, whether they're in difficulty. And if you're Dallas, you're looking across from you and saying, boy, they're a team that has sort of figured out how they need to play against us. And, now we've got to find a way to counter that, to sort of undermine what they're doing to us.
You're our numbers guy, Sasha. I crunched some numbers before we came on the air here, and the Dallas Stars, only 2 players in the top 10 playoff scorers are both defensemen. They got Miro Heiskanen with 24 points, and then you got John Klingberg with 19. Now, if Elias Pettersson or Nathan McKinnon were playing for the Dallas Stars, they would be the leading scorer among the forwards on the Dallas Stars, and neither of those guys have played a game since the second round. So you start looking, Jamie Benn has 18 points, but you look at so far in the finals, Ben's got nothing. Tyler Seguin, nothing. Denis Gurianov, nothing. Radulov's got 3 assists, and Pavelski a goal and assist. But your best players, as the old saying goes, have to be your best players if you want to win, and certainly that's the case in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah, what it looks like to me is that Dallas's best player.
We lost him again. We're having all kinds of technical issues with Sasha today. Kevin, you want to field that one?
Well, yeah, I will, for sure. What's disappointing about that is that it was sort of trendy for reporters after that last series to kind of talk about we've seen the return of the old Jamie Benn. Like, he was such a force in that last round, both physically and scoring important goals. And then all of a sudden he's disappeared again. And again, this goes back to what I was talking about before. There's really no explanation for that. It's not that he doesn't want to perform better, but those are kind of the mysteries of sport that are always hard to unlock, especially if you're trying to bet on these games. Like, how do you explain that, Jamie Benn found his game against Vegas, but hasn't discovered it, against Tampa Bay?
Yeah, I mean, you look at Tampa and you see a goal from Kucherov, a goal from Stamkos in his brief comeback, a goal from Hedman, a goal from Point, and a goal from Palat. I mean, 5 different guys scoring, and all their scoring options. I mean, there's a lot of other guys on that team that can put the puck in the net. And we've seen great teams like that dry up, but when they're rolling, I mean, it's like the steamroller coming at you. If you don't get out of the way, you're going to get flattened.
Yeah, and this is what makes Tampa Bay scary. They were the a top scoring team, and they have been for a number of seasons. And when they get that offense rolling, that's when they are most dangerous. And a goal is only worth a goal no matter who scores it. But when Steven Stamkos scored that goal, it seemed bigger than one goal, it just was uplifting to that team. And I thought it was interesting that, he didn't play, obviously, after that. He didn't play in the second period at all. And then everybody sort of realized, well, it's not going quite as well. But, there he was on the bench and, celebrating with the guys as they won. And, he had a role. He had a role in that win, and he scored a goal, and he did it in a final. And now, if nothing else, he'll be able to say, "Hey, look, I played in that final and I scored a goal, and I only needed 3 minutes to do it." So if they win, obviously if they win the cup, so those are the kind of things that instantly goes down in Stanley Cup lore. If he doesn't play again and they win the cup, Stamkos steps in, plays 3 minutes, scores a goal, Lightning win the cup.
So on that note, let's suppose the Lightning do win the cup. Does Steven Stamkos come out in street clothes to accept the cup from Gary Bettman, or does someone serve as a kind of captain pro tem?
No. Steven Stamkos comes out, because that honor isn't about the season. The honor is about the leader of the team. And, Steven Stamkos has been the guy there for a long time, and he's known the most frustration for not being able to get this team all the way to the end. So, yeah, regardless of his status, like if he's not going to dress for any more games, he'll be the guy. He'll be out there. He'll be in a jersey. If the Tampa Bay Lightning, I guarantee you that Steven Stamkos will receive the cup and you know what, the other players wouldn't want it any other way because they get it. That NHL players respect NHL tradition, and I not only do they honor it, I think they like it. I think they like all the kind of the nuances of, the cup celebration, and like it's important and you know this, but it's important like what the order is of being able to raise the cup, and that's determined usually the night before, the captain in consultation with his trusted lieutenants. They decide what order it should be, and it's important. It shows the sort of the respect that players have for other veteran players on the team.
I know when I was working with Nick Lidstrom on his book, he told me that when he was the captain of the Wings in 2008, he wrestled with that question for months of who was he going to hand the cup to when he got it from Gary Bettman, assuming the Wings won the cup. And he came up with Dallas Drake as his choice. And that's what you traditionally see. It's a veteran guy who's played for a long time and hasn't won the cup. But you look at Tampa Bay's roster, and I try to figure out who that is. And the guy I come up with is probably Ryan McDonough. He's probably the guy who's played the longest there, although really nobody's other than Patrick Maroon. How many cup winners do they have on that team? So
yeah,
you give it, but you think he's been a guy that's been through the wars, played a long time, and is he the guy that Stamkos hands it to?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really haven't thought about that. It's sometimes, it's not about the older guy. It just depends on what the circumstances are, and it may be in this case, maybe it just goes to Hedman because he's so important to the team. Like I don't really know, but I'm just saying I don't think it necessarily always has to go to the guy who's gone the longest without winning. I think sometimes it just goes to the guys who are the most respected on the team. And I see Hedman as a guy that everybody would, if like Stamkos gave it to Hedman, I don't think anybody in that team would say, what's he doing? Yeah, I think everybody would sort of get that. Just because of his stature around the league and everything else. But I don't know what he's thinking. I'd actually have to sit and ponder that a little bit about what makes more sense. But Ryan McDonough certainly is a worthy candidate for just the reasons you laid out.
So before we get the Dallas Stars fans getting their poison pens out and sending us hate mail, we should acknowledge we're just talking hypotheticals here. We're not saying
exactly.
Dallas could easily come out and win Game 4, and then we got a whole new series again. But let's talk about what do they have to do to make that happen. And one of the big issues, Mike Heika brought it up when we had him on here Tuesday. Anton Hudobin, had never played 18 games in a row in his entire NHL career. Is he gassed? Is it time for Rick Bowness to maybe think about Ben Bishop or his Bishop's numbers? He's given up 4 goals in each of his last 3 appearances. Is it too scary at this point to go to him?
I'll tell you, I have a difficult time trying to decide what I think is the right call here. And it's funny because all the other goalie moves that have been made, I had an instant opinion. I had a feeling of what I thought should happen. And this one, I don't know because I can see arguments both ways. Khudobin, may be fatigued. He didn't look himself last night. On the other hand, he's the horse that brought him here, and this is his time, and he's risen up when they've needed him. And we don't know how sharp Ben Bishop would be after not playing. So there's a lot of factors to weigh here, and it may be something as simple as how good Bishop has looked in practice. Has he looked sharp? What's their feeling on where Khudobin's energy level is? They know. I mean, when you spend an entire season, with a group of guys, you know their tells. You can look at them and know who needs a rest, and you can tell who's not quite where he should be in terms of his energy level. So I think this is a difficult decision. I mean, I'm sure the coaches would say they all are, but in most cases, I could see a logical move, and I don't know what it is in this one. I guess I would lean toward playing Khudobin, but I don't know that that's the right call.
Well, I mean, you get into the point now if you wait till game 5 to play Bishop, and
it's too late.
Or you're pretty much grasping at straws then. But on the other hand, if you play him in game 4 and like he did in the Calgary series, he just gets lit up. Then do you think about we could have gone with as you say, the old Bum Phillips saying, the famous Houston Oilers coach, you dance with who brung you.
Yeah.
Khudobin's the guy who brung them to this point. So, it would be kind of a slap in his face, I guess, to say, thanks for the ride, buddy, but we're going to go with another horse.
Yeah, no, that's right. And, that's another, I think, point in Khudobin's favor is that, not only has he been the guy, but he's enjoyed the ride. And I think the players who have been playing beside him have appreciated the enthusiasm he's brought to this project. And I think they've enjoyed, how that he's become kind of a sidebar story, and that he's, he gives them sort of a different look than they've had during the season. He's kind of been an X factor. I think teams like to have a certain mystery to them when they go into playoffs. You don't want everybody to know everything about you. And with the Dallas Stars, we didn't know everything about them because we didn't know how they would be with Khudobin in that, because no one predicted that was going to happen. So, I like I said, I think I'd lean toward Khudobin, but I maybe I don't know enough about it, and I'm not there every day. And whatever decision Boness makes, he's going to be second guessed if they lose. So,
yeah, I mean, it's kind of it's strange to even be having this discussion. As we've talked about many times, when you're in the Stanley Cup playoffs, traditionally, you have a guy in goal that you ride, win, lose, or whatever. And yet this unique Stanley Cup format that we've dealt with this year because of the pandemic has led to a number of teams using multiple goalies. But one of them hasn't been the Lightning. I mean, they know who their goalie is. And it's amazing how little anyone talks about Andrei Vasilevsky. He won the Vezina Trophy. He's been a rock for them in goal. And, I remember when they had Ben Bishop and they went to the finals in 2015, and then they traded Bishop and decided to ride with Vasilevsky. There were some people who scratched their heads then about the decision. Certainly no one in the Tampa Bay organization did. But, I mean, you look at it now, and it's hard to second-guess that move.
Yeah. I was not among those who questioned that decision because I had talked to enough scouts. Like, people in the scouting community loved Vasilevsky. And even before that draft, if Vasilevsky was a forward or a defenseman and had that talent level, he would have gone in the top 3. I know that's an odd thing to say, but teams are resistant to take goalies real high. But he had a talent that was worthy to go that high, and people knew it. Like, it wasn't like when. That people were shocked that he ended up being a first-round pick, or that he's ended up being that good. Because I had scouts tell me back then, "Oh, this guy's going to be, a franchise goalie." Like, they all knew it. but that you just couldn't get teams to, pull the trigger because for one, there's a lot of factors to that. Number one, it usually takes a goalie till 24 or so to make it. The fact we've got Carter Hart, which is a little bit of a surprise. Usually it takes them a little bit longer, but even though people were predicting the Vasilevsky would be done early, there's been some busts, some goalies that have been taken high that haven't performed very well. So I think people are fearful to take that. But this is I don't know that there's a better goalie in the league, and I don't just mean that from one season's performance. I just think looking at him the way he's played over the last couple of years and looking at where he's at now in his career, I think he's probably the best goalie in the league.
You wonder, you're looking ahead, does this impact any teams when they consider the draft? When you look at a guy like Askarov, who has been talked about in those Vasilevsky terms, and he's recently jumped into goal for his team in the KHL and has been dominant. So he's taken another step forward in his progression. Kind of one of the strange developments again because of the pandemic. The draft hasn't happened yet, and here he is already into his next hockey season. And he wasn't expected to be the go-to goalie and has quickly moved into that role.
Yeah. And you're starting to hear people say, well, he could be ready early. But I caution people on that. Now, not that I don't believe in Askarov, because I do. When I talk to in the scouting community, they all say that, he's an upper echelon prospect. But, what we've learned over the last several years is the KHL is not as good as we thought it was going to be when it debuted. All we have to do, and we've talked about this on podcasts, is look around at some of the players that have come over here and just not found success after being very successful in the KHL. Now, obviously, we have great Russian players in this league, and some of them do. But I'm just talking in general, especially the ones that have come a little bit later, haven't been able to light it up, and we've had some younger ones that haven't performed quite at the same level that was expected as well. And I don't think Askarov has any chance of failing. I think he's a high-level prospect. But I do think it might be a little optimistic, as some people are saying, to think he's going to, be ready next season or something. Like I don't think he's ready for that. It's going to take him a little while to be ready.
You wonder if a team like the Ottawa Senators, who have multiple first-round picks, and just told their longtime goalie Craig Anderson, they won't be re-signing him. Again, not saying that Askarov would be there next season, but there's a team obviously that needs a goalie for the future. And when you have multiple first-round picks, are you more likely to take that gamble on a goalie when you've still got other picks to make up for it if it's a mistake?
Well, usually, but where are those picks? That's the problem.
Cool.
So, and you can't take. I mean, so where are their picks at, Bob?
I know they got 3 and 5, and the third one.
Yeah.
So the third one, I'm sure, would be the one they'd want to use on Askarov. But
and what number is that?
I can't remember it. I have to look it up.
He'll be gone by 13, is what I think.
I think some team's going to jump up and take him earlier than everybody expects.
Yeah, that could be, but I don't think people.
I don't think he'll be top 5 or anything like that.
No, but people tell me that there are 10 really, really good players, and then there's a little bit of a fall off. So, would somebody come up and take him at 11 or 10? Somewhere in there, maybe. I'd have to look to see what teams are there, but I think that's where he's going to fall in maybe the 9 to 12 area, 9 to 13, somewhere in there. That would be my guess. I would. It's all. Sometimes it just all comes down to chance. Like if the Red Wings had ended up like 8th, I think they would take him at 8th. I think Steve Yzerman likes him. He was the guy that drafted Vasilevsky. He's not afraid of Russian goalies, and I think the comparison which is made to Vasilevsky, probably holds true in terms of potential anyway. So I think, but Eisman's not going to take him at 4. At least I don't think he will.
Well, you never know with Stevie. You know, no one thought he was going to take more Exciter where he took him last year. So
yeah, that's true, but I don't know. There's
hard
just
to take a goalie at 4.
Yeah, I just think as much as you'd like them, especially too. Like I think you got to factor in that there are so many goalies available. Like I did a piece for Hockey Buzz this week where I pointed out, and we all know this, that unlike defensemen and forwards, when you're a free agent goalie, you're not sure how strong the market's going to be. Like when you're a defenseman or forward, you got 31 potential teams to go to. Not so with goalies. Yeah, during your free agency year, you look around and there are only 3 or 4 teams that are looking for a goalie. This year's different. I counted up 16 teams who are going to make a significant change in their net. Either they're going to get a new number 1, or they want a 1B guy to come in and push that 1A guy for playing time. And there are a lot of goalies available. And, if you're Steve Yzerman, isn't this, a time to get a goalie? If you got a young team and you're trying to change this into a winning culture, you can't lose again like they did last year. I think that just sets you back. So, if you want your team to gain some confidence, you go out and get them a credible, steady goalie. And I think Steve Yzerman could get one out there at a reasonable price. There's so many goalies available that I don't think you're going to have to give these goalies long-term deals or, big ticket contracts. I think they're all going to be reasonably priced. So, already we've seen reports, and who knows if they're true, because what I always say about Steve Yzerman is that any rumor you hear about Steve Yzerman is probably bunk, because he really tells no one nothing. So he does not spill the beans on what he's planning to do. But, there's been reports out there that the Red Wings might pursue Markstrom. And, there are other goalies out there that, they might be interested in. Like, let's just say that Vancouver signs Markstrom and they decide to trade Thatcher Demko. Well, wouldn't he look good in a Red Wings jersey? A young goalie to fit with a young team. There are options out there for the Red Wings to find a credible goalie. Even Darcy Kemper would be a nice fit on that team. He'd perform well for a team that was struggling. They were pretty good this year, but that was struggling in the past, and helped them, I think, rise up quicker than they would have.
And, as you say, there are only so many spots for a goalie. So I think a weaker team has a better shot to land a free agent goalie than they're going to have to get a frontline defenseman or forward to convince them to come and play for a team that's at the bottom of the standings, because there's more options for them and more spots on the roster for them. So they're more likely to look for a team that they think they can win the cup with. Whereas with a goalie, as you say, there's only so many, there's only 62 jobs to start with, and then that means 31 number 1 jobs, and then how many of those 31 are open right now? There's a lot of math involved in the goalie situation.
Well, for sure, and someone's going to end up in the Ottawa job, and that may not be his first choice, but if the music stops and all the chairs are filled, you gotta get what you can. So. They could end up with a credible goalie as well.
I remember when Uwe Krupp signed with the Red Wings in, I think it was 96, I want to say, 96, 97, around there. And he said that, when he became a free agent, the first time in his career he'd ever been one, he said it was terrifying. He said, you start thinking, I don't have an employer. I don't have a job. And, he got one pretty fast, but he said those couple of days when he didn't have a job, it was pretty unsettling.
Yeah, well, I think you and I both can relate to that. Yeah, it is unsettling after you've had a pretty steady paychecks, and their paychecks were a lot bigger than our paychecks. So, it's got to be, daunting to sit and ponder the idea that there won't be steady income if nobody wants you. And, you really are serving at the pleasure of the GMs. You assume that somebody will like you, but you don't know for sure.
We're not back on the air again until Tuesday, Kevin. Are we going to be talking about a Stanley Cup champion then, or about a?
Well, I don't think so. I kind of feel like there's still, something left with the Dallas Stars, and they've been a team that has fought back, and I got to believe, the top players on Dallas are talking amongst themselves, saying, we've got to, play better. We're capable. We've showed that, during this postseason. Everybody now knows the story of Jamie Benn showing up with a lot of luggage saying, I plan to be here a long time. Well, if that's the case, then it's time for Jamie and the other top players to rise up. And, we've said this before. All they got to do is win this next game, and it is a wide open series. Just win one game. That's all we're asking. Don't even think about what happens and it's going to happen in Game 5. Just think about 4. You got to win 4. Just like the Stanley Cup depends on it. It's like a Game 7, and that's the way they're going to have to view it.
Well, we'll find out if Kevin's right about that on Tuesday when we join you again. But as of right now, we're out of time. This has been the Hockey Debates podcast, powered by sportsbettingdime.com, and we will be back with you to talk more hockey, and that'll be on Tuesday afternoon. So everybody enjoy the day.